are you? Welcome to our ThriveCAST series. Today, I am sitting down with Daniel Durham, and he is the mastermind behind Daniel Durham Construction PDX. His company is known for turning architectural dreams into reality with craftsmanship and precision and a whole lot of Portland grit. So, from custom builds to seamless renovations, Daniel and his team are really redefining what it means to build with integrity in the Pacific Northwest. So, Daniel, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thanks, Shannon. I'm super excited to be here.
So, tell me, how did you get started in construction? Where did all of this begin for you?
Yeah, well, maybe I'll take you back to the very beginning, and that really, I owe it to my father, who unknowingly at the time really took me aside every time there was a project around the house. We lived on some property, and there was always something going on. One summer we're building a chicken coop, and the next summer we're building a rabbit hutch, and then we're re-roofing the house. So he always made the effort to get me involved. And looking back, that was really shaped my interest in the trades. And then fast forward a bit to right out of high school, I moved to South Lake Tahoe, California, which we have in common, we learned.
Yeah. Yes, my hometown.
And that's where I learned my trade and got into carpentry and began framing houses, and I never looked back.
That's awesome. So, what led you to start Durham Construction? And, what was your passion and why in the Pacific Northwest?
Yeah, great questions. So I think I always had an entrepreneurial spirit or an independent spirit, and always, that desire to work for yourself and all the things you associate with that. And during construction, it was really born out of a passion for quality craftsmanship and a dedicated attention to detail, and also just the desire to really put your own name on something and put it out in the world. Yeah, and then the Pacific Northwest is where I grew up, so it feels very, feels like home. It feels natural, and it's a place I want to live my life. So it felt like a really natural connection.
Well, what kind of work does Durham Construction do? Because do you have a specialty or are you general contractor? Will you do anything? What's your niche?
Yeah, so we specialize in design-driven modern construction. So what that means is that our all of our projects are done in close collaboration with an architect or a designer. So they're highly intentional and highly considered. Um,
So when do you have a set of architects that you work with on a regular, or how do you connect those dots? Do the customers connect those dots for you? Do you connect those dots for the customer? What does that look like?
yeah, it can kind of go both ways, to be honest. Most of the time, it's an architect or designer is working with a client already. So the client comes to them, they want to remodel their house or design a new house. They would usually get through what's called schematic design, where they actually have something, kind of a conceptual idea of the project. And then they would say, okay, it's time to bring on a builder. Here's two of our recommended builders. Why don't you meet with them and choose one? And then we can kind of start to build a team. So that's the way it typically works. About 25% of the time, we also have clients or associates that come to us directly, and then we're able to
Really
refer.
connect the dots.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So when you're in competition with, there's builders are a dime a dozen, right? Like there's a bunch. So when you're in competition with another builder, what do you think sets Durham Construction apart from those that you're competing against?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's something we talk about internally. I think first and foremost, I think I always encourage clients to really look at the whole package when you're looking at a builder, right? Like look at their social media, look at their Google reviews, look at their portfolio, look at their website. Like, does it all speak the same language, or are there gaps in it, right? So
Mhm.
I think just our brand as a whole separates us from some of the others. And then maybe to get a little more specific, one thing I believe that really separates us is we really do our best and aim to bring a sense of calm and ease and like peace to a project that kind of
Even a
sort.
construction project?
I know. I
Like,
know.
what?
I know it sounds ironical and maybe and hard to believe. We get that feedback semi regularly from clients or trade partners that they were just amazed at how much they actually enjoyed the project and how what a calming presence we had. Yeah.
Wow, that's a superpower for sure because most people are very high strung and super stressed and ready to crumble just by touching them because building is stressful and building your home, which is really probably any single person's biggest investment, is a huge, like, you're putting your whole life in someone else's hands to be able to make that come to life, and that's not easy. So for you to say we have a calming effect, that's like a superpower because not a lot of people can say that.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
So, what are you guys working on right now? What do you have? What are the projects that are in the works as of today?
Yeah. So we currently have kind of two larger projects actually in construction, but we also have several projects in pre-construction that we're ramping up into. So we have one kind of our juiciest project at the moment is up in Southwest Washington, actually, in a place called Woodland, and it's on this beautiful river setting on the Lewis River with some local architects that we really appreciate, the Guggenheims, and that is a whole house remodel of a big '90s river house.
Nice, nice.
And then we've got one other one here in Portland, which is another larger scale remodel of a beautiful mid century home, which is something we're very passionate about.
My
Yeah.
favorite type of design. I just love mid-century.
Yeah, really?
Oh yeah, I love it through and through. It's my favorite. So if you were to take a little tour, a little jaunt through my house, you would see it's all mid-century inspired.
I love that.
A dash of bohemian. There's a little bit of bohemian in there, but yeah, I think that's the mountain girl in me. So, question for you with regards to building in Portland, like in South Lake Tahoe, there's rules and you have to
Mhm.
like have broken ground, I think by October, in order to be able to build through the winter. And if you didn't break ground, you're out. You can't do anything in the winter. Are those rules similar in Portland too?
Funny, I forgot about those rules until you brought it up. Yeah,
Yeah.
in Tahoe. No, we don't have anything like that because obviously the ground doesn't freeze to the extent that it does. It's a totally different climate. So it's very, very temperate in Portland and you can build all year round.
Got it, got it. Yeah, I didn't know if that was just a Tahoe thing or if it's just a snow thing or what that was. But yeah, I know everybody was always running to make sure that they could break ground in October so they could work through the winter.
Yeah.
So, what keeps you motivated like day to day? Like what just keeps your motor running to continue to grow your
Yeah, that's a great question. I think what really gets me out of bed in the morning is I intend to build my own personal house actually next year, and it's been a dream
yeah,
for over 20 years. So that's like the fire in me right now to get that project built. And outside of that, I'm motivated by building relationships with people and being a better leader to my team and growing as a person and just striving to be my best self really keeps me motivated.
so, building relationships, are you active in your community beyond just the construction portion? Are you part of, the business associations? How do you reach your community members to kind of feel that influence?
Yeah, I guess to be honest, I meant it maybe a little more industry specific. I enjoy building relationships with all sorts of people, of course, like even yourself, Shannon. I think day to day, though, I really think about like all the different trade partners that we partner with and those relationships that we build when we work with someone for some, over a decade, and architectural design and design partners, and the clients that we build really meaningful relationships with. Some projects last, a few years by the time you meet them to when you deliver the project. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you have return clients, or is your clientele more like I'm building your dream home and then we're done?
Yeah, we have return clients for sure. Maybe they start out with a kitchen and then a few years later they purchase a new home, or they want to remodel another wing of their home. So not
Yeah.
unheard of.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. It's always nice to have kind of that return clientele, because then also your word of mouth is your best marketing tool. So that's important to always maintain those relationships, I think.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
So you are an international traveler, and I know that you recently went to Japan, right? Was it Japan? Okay, so tell me about some of the inspiration you found in some of your international travels.
Wow, how long do we have? So
I hit the favorite subject.
yeah, for sure. This is the subject. Everyone has that subject that they could just talk about like all day, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
definitely travel is that one for me. So um yeah, that's my biggest source of inspiration for sure, is to travel. And then went to Japan recently in October, almost spent almost a month there. And I've been really inspired by Japanese architecture and design. And as you probably know, it's also really the zenith of carpentry and just
Uh,
craft in the world and all of that. Also, the personal home project that I brought up earlier is actually a Japanese inspired home. So I really went there on like a true inspiration trip to find ideas and materials and lighting, etc., for that new house that I'm going to build. So yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. So, how often, I mean, do you often bring some of your international learnings through travel? Do you bring that back into some of the design that you do in your
Mm.
carpentry? And do you collaborate with architects to be able to do that, or is it just kind of like a little tweak here? And how do you make sure that that inspiration is peppered in somehow into some of your projects?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can't think of any like literal examples, but
Yeah.
definitely, like, as as most people would say, that when you travel, it just permeates you and who you are, and it kind of comes out in maybe more subtle ways. So don't mean to dodge
Yeah.
your question, but yeah.
No, that makes sense. And it's kind of funny because, and I don't know what tradition this is, if it's Chinese tradition, if it's Japanese tradition, but I know that like windows have to face in a certain way
Mm.
in order for light to come in. And, all of those things have to be brought into the overarching design in order for it to feel welcoming, I'm pretty sure. So
Hmm.
I can
Hmm.
imagine that some of those little tips and tricks would be cool to create in someone's home.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
So you went to Japan and the home inspired your trip. Are there any sort of like Japanese materials or specific design in the architecture world that you have used to create your home inspiration?
Yeah, that's a fun question. So I brought a couple actually examples I thought might be fun to show.
Yeah.
So this is actually what's called shoshugiban. And if you've never heard of this, this is a kind of ancient Japanese technique where they actually burn the face of the wood, and it creates kind of like a blackened char effect. And
Nice.
not only is it beautiful, but it naturally preserves the wood and makes it insect repellent. And then they put this one has a really organic linseed oil to give it a little sheen. So this is a cool product that's actually a company outside of Portland called Nakatoma, but they're very true to the Japanese tradition and take it very seriously. So that's one cool product that I was looking at.
So where would you use that in your home?
So this would be like your exterior
Okay.
siding, probably
Okay.
vertically oriented.
Got it. So pretty.
This is another cool material. This is actually um, hemlock. So as an example, this is very like on trend right now. So you would see, maybe the underside of your roof soffits would be like a lighter color with this kind of darker siding. So that's kind of like a on trend look right now in the design industry.
That's so cool. I haven't seen that as much on the outside, but on the inside, like in the kitchens where your cabinetry is a different color on top versus the cabinetry on the bottom, and making sure that that contrast really works well. I know it's very trendy. It's very in right now.
This is one more material I wanted to share with you, Shannon. So this, I am obsessed with this tile. I'm going to actually use it on my personal home. So this is a Japanese tile company, handmade tiles. It's a company by the name of Inax. And funny enough, when I found this tile a few years ago, I thought it was the most exotic thing in the world, and it is. But after going to Japan, I realized that Inax is almost tantamount to like the Kohler of Japan. So it's like a very like,
Very
you can't,
common.
yeah, like if you go into a bathroom, you could see an Inax toilet or shower head or anything, right? So, just kind of a little funny side story, but yeah, this is a really beautiful product.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I can't. So, have you, speaking of your house, have you worked with like a specific architect to design your home, or are you doing that on your own?
Yeah. So actually the architects I mentioned earlier, the Guggenheim Architecture and Design are the architects, and then another colleague, Dyer Studio, is the interior designer. So yeah, we've
Got it.
been working on it for almost 2 years, but we're all the design's complete now.
Oh, it's gonna be. Oh, you're gonna have to come back on the show, and then you're gonna have to give us a walkthrough
Let's
of,
do it. Let's
well,
do
we're
it.
gonna do it HGTV style, and we're just gonna see how you have created this, dream home of yours for yourself. It's so cool.
I'm totally
So,
game.
yeah, like it'll be a great podcast. So, speaking of your business, what kind of hurdles or recurring lessons have really shaped your journey to success in the construction industry? Because, like I mentioned before, construction is a dime a dozen, and there's a bunch out there, so it's kind of a noisy market. So, what
Mhm.
are those lessons that have really helped shape your journey to success?
Yeah. So I'd say to preface, one thing I've learned, maybe you have as a business owner, is lessons are repeated until learned. Right? They will
Yeah.
keep coming up until you really like figure them out and make an adjustment. So the one that was the hardest for me that really kept coming up was the need to make financially informed decisions.
Hmm.
I can tend to be a little more intuitive, which definitely has its advantages, but also sometimes you really do need to be analytical and look at the numbers and the spreadsheets and make those kind of decisions. So
Yeah.
that one was the one for me to really, spend that time learning how to navigate QuickBooks and spreadsheets and your reports and like understand your P&L and really make those decisions about the future based on data, I think was the
Yeah.
biggest lesson for me.
Yeah, I always say I want to surround myself with people that are smarter than me because that'll make me more successful. So thank goodness for those bookkeepers that help keep all of that stuff in line for us, sole business owners because I don't know what I would do without them. So definitely surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, and you'll be so much better in self doing that.
Shout out to our bookkeepers,
Yeah, shout out to our bookkeepers for sure.
keeping us in order.
Completely, especially during tax season, which is right now. So yeah, that's always fun. Anyway, on to more important, funner things to talk about besides taxes. So if you had to start over today, what do you think you would do differently in starting the business all over?
I think the one thing I would do differently would be to hire a business coach sooner.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be like my biggest piece of advice to my younger self.
Yeah. So, do you have a business coach?
Yeah, we've had a business coach for probably the last 4 or 5 years, and that was just like an inestimable boon to business and our health of our business. So yeah, I couldn't recommend it enough if you're thinking about it.
Yeah, I've heard great stories about you have to find the right fit with a business coach, right? So that's the
Definitely.
most important thing. I met with a person and I thought that she was a good fit, and after kind of digging in, I realized that she wasn't the right fit for me, so we had to kind of cut ties, but being able to find, that person that really understands what your thought process is in business always helps you go further. So, who's your business coach? We should give them a shout out so they can get more business.
Yeah, Bill Horton Jr. Yeah, shout
All
out to
right.
Bill. Yeah.
Go, Bill. We're going to throw your website up there and have people come visit you. So, you've mentioned a little bit of personal growth in all of your travels. So, how have you been able to tie that growth into your business growth? Has there been an intersection there?
Yeah, I think that personal growth and business growth are inextricably connected in my experience. And I think it can be tempting to kind of separate those and see those as different, but it's, as we know, it's all connected, right? Like, if you're feeling vitality and healthy and fit and you're, eating well and your relationships are well, like that's going to trickle in and permeate your business as well, right? So I think, I personally try to really focus on the personal growth, and then that always affects the business growth in my experience. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It's almost like a mantra, right? Like this is how you're going to live your life, and if you can think positive in your life, usually positive things will come out of it, right? So it's just it's being able to embrace what you have and use it for good, which I think is just crucial. And not everybody does that, right?
Yeah, no doubt. I could totally agree.
So, based on your business and how you're growing, I'm assuming you're not a general contractor anymore. You're overseeing all this, and you have GCs, you have project managers that are running your jobs.
Yeah, well, technically, I still have a general contractor's license,
License.
but yeah, I'm not working in the field and swinging a hammer. What might be what you mean. So we have a few different project managers that manage projects, and then my role is kind of the head of construction and the head of sales, so kind of overseeing those departments.
And so, what sort of daily habits contribute to your success as a business owner? Do you have kind of a schedule that you go by?
Yeah, definitely very schedule oriented. As far as daily habits, I think you just mentioned just having a positive attitude.
Mm.
I couldn't agree more. I think that is one of the simplest and often most overlooked habit we can possibly have. Just how we choose to interpret events and the world and other people. Obviously, some days it's easier than others, but just really making an effort to view things, even challenges, as opportunities. I think another small but mighty habit is I use my drive time to listen to audiobooks that are
Yeah.
inspirational and educational, whether it's business or personal growth, like just that, all that dead time we spend, like that can be invested in our own education. And I heard somewhere that you spend 500 to 600 hours a year in the car. That's like a college education if you aim it in the right direction. So yeah,
Right? That makes
yeah.
total sense. So then what are the books that you're listening to right now?
Oh man. Yeah, but I joke around that my vehicle runs on gasoline and a never-ending rotation of like inspirational audiobooks. It's like just constantly. So I mean,
Spotify
like
has you pinned. It knows what you
definitely.
like. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always kind of going back to Michael Gerber's E-Myth. I think that is just like the most powerful business book on the planet, maybe. Um, I'm also very inspired by a kind of a business philosopher from the 70s and 80s named Jim Rohn. He was a somewhat of a motivational speaker space, but
Yeah.
he has a book called The Art of Exceptional Living that is just like made a huge impact on my life. And also Brian Tracy and Jack Canfield, and maybe you're familiar with Jen Sincero and the Badass books. Like those are, just incredibly inspiring. So stuff like that. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So tell me about to date. Do you have a favorite project that you guys have undertaken that
Mm.
just came out like a chef's kiss that
Mm.
is just your favorite of all time?
I like that expression a lot, the chef's kiss.
Yeah.
I'm going to start using that if you don't mind. Yeah, actually, I think one of our most recent projects that we completed was the chef's kiss. Turned it over to the clients just in October, but it was a large scale beautiful mid-century home, and we just touched everything. I mean, we had it down to just the bones, and we did the doors and the windows, new kitchen, new bathrooms, new flooring. I mean, you name it, we did it. And it took like a full team dedication and investment of a year. But the way that it turned out, it sang, right? You just like,
Yeah.
you walked into it and there was just the absence of air, or negative, and you just felt it when you were in there, the quality. Yeah. So
Yeah, I love that. And, I always talk from a marketing perspective. Marketing is very emotional. And if you can establish that emotional connection and whatever it is that you're doing or whatever it is that you're selling, it's always going to be that much sweeter. So, a home like this, you definitely have exuded an emotional connection because it was perfection for you. And those are the best stories to tell, right? The best stories. And those are the things that make you proud as an entrepreneur. So I love that. We're going to have to show pictures of this.
yeah.
I will add photos of this for post production so people can see some of the pretty imagery. So before we leave, what is the one thing that you want this audience to know about Daniel Durham Construction? Just what is that end story for you?
Woo.
Talk about philosophical, huh?
Yeah. I mean, maybe I'll take a little bit of a humble approach. That's the quality I've been working on. I would say that, like, entrepreneurship is such a journey. And, there's just every time you reach a new level, there's just another level to reach. It's like the rungs of a ladder, right? And just the humility to like realize that you're never going to have it all figured out. Like there's always going to be a new challenge or a new situation, and there's never a point where you just put your feet up on the couch, and you're just, yeah. So
Yeah,
I
right.
think just staying humble and like continuing to, never stop learning and never stop growing, I think are the best assets for entrepreneurship. But yeah,
Yeah. I love that. You really are very humble and you are very calming. Yeah, I'm
thank
like
you.
exact opposite of you. Like I am bouncing off the walls, and so you're having your calming effect levels me out. So I get why your customers like that. That is
Yeah.
definitely a superpower. So what is your website address and how can people find you? Are you on LinkedIn? What is the website? Just give us that so we know.
Yep. So website is durhamconstructionpdx.com. And we're pretty active on Instagram, and our handle is at Durham Construction PDX. We do have it LinkedIn, but we're not honestly super active on LinkedIn. So more Instagram.
I
Yeah.
love that you have a different channel than others. So that's cool that Instagram works for you. I'll have to give you guys a follow.
Yeah, I would love that.
Well, Daniel, it has been great chatting with you, and I wish you guys ongoing success. And once your home is built, you need to come back, and we are going to HGTV this, and you're going to give us a grand tour, and it's going to be awesome.
You got it. Let's do it.
All right. Thanks
Thanks
for
for having me
being
on, Shannon.